The only record I have my eyes set on breaking, which it'd be new this year, going 20-0.
Okay.
That's not really a record to be broken, I guess you'd say, but I think 19-0 is the record right now. So being able to go 20-0, be the first one to do that, that'd be awesome.
Acho, should Patrick Mahomes be talking about going 20-0?
Yes, and yes. Here's why, Sal. Since when do we get mad at somebody for trying to be perfect?
Me all the time, Anna Marie. I'm like, you ain't gonna be perfect. Why you trying?
Okay, well, look.
Okay, you ready?
I subscribe to the notion of shoot for the moon, and even if you miss, you land amongst the clouds.
Okay.
I subscribe to the notion of aim for perfection, because even if you don't end up actually being perfect, you still gonna be all right. And that's where I live in. I'm like, I like having, I've said this before, I wrote my master's, and when I got my master's in sports psychology, I wrote my final paper on this. I don't believe in having or setting goals. I believe in having an objective with no limitations. Now, he is giving himself the limitation, because the limitation is an NFL season is only 20 games, if indeed you are perfect, 17 plus your 3 in the playoffs.
Yep.
But he is giving himself an objective with relatively no limitations. And no limitations is thus, I'm not going to give myself room for error or room for a loss. I ain't mad at the man for saying he's going to be perfect. I'm not mad at him for wanting to be perfect. Ultimately, Patrick Mahomes' quote comes down to 2 things. He's aiming for perfection, and he's aiming for a Super Bowl. If he said, man, our goal is just to go 16-0 and 17-0 and see what happens, I'd be mad. Goal to win a Super Bowl, not a regular season title. But he said, I want to go 20-0. That implies he wants to be perfect. It implies he wants to win a Super Bowl.
Look, I don't like talk like this. I don't like things like this. These are those type of goals that are not for you. They're not the ones you put under your bed, under your pillow. These are the ones you put on the wall so everybody can see. Oh, we're going to go 20-0. You're like, man, you ain't going 20-0 because it's not all about you. What's the ultimate team sport? Football. How many times have we won games we should have lost? And how many times we lost games we should have won? So 20-0 is outside of your control. So why is it on your goal list? It will be nice. It will be amazing. This is one of those things that after it happens, I'm like, talk about it. But before, no. You know why? Because it reeks of arrogance. And here's the arrogance. It makes you mentally stop and skip square one. Think about what square one is. When you, first year of doing anything successfully, your first book, you wrote a book and it was a New York Times bestseller, up there with like Obama's book. And you wrote that book and you killed it. Now, if you start saying, next time, I'm gonna write the perfect book. I'm gonna write an even better book. Good for you. But how about this? Don't skip square one. Would you skip square one? No, because you're not arrogant. How about this, Patrick Mahomes? Throw a touchdown in the last game we seen you in. Oh, that was the biggest game. That was a Super Bowl. We saw the disparity at the quarterback position. How about this? No team has done this, so why don't you do it and then tell us how you did it? But to aspire for that, that's not perfect. It's silly. You said what? I want to shoot for the moon and land in the clouds.
Yeah, clouds, stars, all that good stuff.
You know when you land in the clouds and you really want to go to the moon, first thing you're going to do is like, where am I? Because this ain't where I wanted to be. Everybody always says that. And I'm like, that's stupid. I don't want to be anywhere I didn't intend to be. Because now I got to get out a different map. I'm like, what the hell is going on in the clouds? The moon. Look, I love you, Patrick Mahomes, and I love people who want to be perfect, but you lying, boss, and you're lying to yourself more importantly, and it's not going to do you any good. Got to bring in Fox NFL analyst Bucky Brooks. So, Bucky, should Patrick Mahomes be talking about going 20-0?
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I grew up in a praying family, a family that went to church. Yes, and what Patrick Mahomes is simply doing, he's speaking it into existence. You shouldn't be afraid to put things out there, because before you can do it, you got to believe that it can happen. And so this is no different than what the Kansas City Chiefs did last year. Last year, they talked about running it back and having a dynasty. You know what they did? They went 14-1 where Patrick Mahomes was that quarterback. And so for me, this is something that only the boldest can do, is to put it out there and let the world know, this is what we are looking to accomplish. This is my expectation, and we're going to work to make this happen. I love when Patrick Mahomes does this stuff, because what he's really doing is he's putting the pressure on himself to make sure that every day he holds himself to that standard, that championship standard. Because let's be real, it took a global pandemic and the stars lining up for the Kansas City Chiefs to not win the Super Bowl. It took Patrick Mahomes getting hurt. It took 2 offensive tackles, their starting offensive tackles, being unable to play, or they were going to do exactly what they said they were going to do. So, no, I believe in what Patrick Mahomes is saying. You stand up in it, and you say it with your chest. If he believes they're going 20-0, who am I to say that they can't get it done? I love this from the leader.
And I think they can get it done. But furthermore, let's personalize this. Y'all watching a show with all athletes that play the game at the highest level, though some better than Emmanuel Acho. So with that being said, Sel, I know there was a point in time where you told yourself, I want to get drafted.
Yeah.
Did you tell yourself you want to get drafted in the first round or just I want to get drafted?
Just drafted.
Did you ever want to lead the league in sacks? Or sack a game?
Nah, I thought about it, but I was playing with some boys. Bruce Smith was still playing.
There comes a point in time where we all set these finite goals for ourselves. I told myself I want to get drafted in the third round.
Okay.
I'm sure so many athletes, I told myself I want to write a #1 New York Times best-selling book. Not just the best-selling book, because top 15 to me, that ain't all that special. I wanted to be #1. Well, here's the problem. I didn't get drafted in the top 3 rounds, and I didn't write a New York Times #1 best-selling book the first time. The kicker, though, was this, Sel. I look back and I say, wait a second, but you still got drafted, and only about 256 people get drafted.
Right.
You didn't write a #1 New York Times best-selling book the first time, but you did write a New York Times best-selling book. So when all said and done, at the end of the day, Acho, you still did kind of okay, even if the Chiefs don't go 20-0, Sel, as long as he sets the bar that high. They'll look up, they might have gone 17-3 and won a Super Bowl. Even if the Chiefs didn't win a Super Bowl last year, Patrick Mahomes is still going to look back and say, okay, my last 2 years, I've been to 2 Super Bowls and I won 1. Set that bar at 20-0, because even if you don't hit 20-0, you still gonna end up in a very, very good destination.
Oh, okay. I didn't know we were goalpost moving out here. I didn't know I was supposed to put on a different colored jacket, grab a shovel, and say, let's move this goalpost. Hey, if you end up 17-3 and still win a Super Bowl, that ain't this question. But yeah, amazing accomplishment. But be careful of the arrogance that is seeping out in this. I want to go 20-0. It's interesting, Bucky comes on here and says he's a praying man. So he wants to go out there and say something like this, speaking it to existence.
Amen.
And then he says, only the bold could do this.
Yes, sir.
And my grandma told me, there's a thin line between bold and BS. And here's the thing. I can say a whole lot of stuff that sound bold as hell, and I qualify for it, at least to make you think maybe he could. But then there's also right next to that some BS. And here's the thing about 20-0 that I just want to let y'all know why this is so difficult, nearly impossible. Because too much can happen for that to happen. I know Patrick Mahomes means it. I am not talking about he's not being genuine. You know why I know he means it, Acho? Because he didn't say it like us. He didn't say 20-0. He said 20-0. This sucker being literal. This sucker for real. Like, he really thinking about this. But here's the problem. Look at these statistics of the 27 previous Super Bowl losers. 27 previous. Only 1 returned to the Super Bowl in the following season. More have missed the playoffs than even returned to the divisional round. I'm not trying to get them lost in all that sauce and talk about y'all gonna be what other teams were. But damn, this is why there's a thing called sophomore slump. And everyone always misreads what sophomore slump is. Your first year, you ball out. A little easier than you expected. Whatever, you hit the ground running. So then you go into that offseason, you're like, I got this. Oh, them boys ain't that tough. Whatever you say to yourself. And you say, next year, I'm about to do this. In Acho's terms, he gonna do something perfect. He going to the moon. And you skip a step. How about go 1-0? How about go 2-0? The tried true coaches and players, they don't what you say, Acho? You be where your feet are.
Oh, God.
You ain't even play week 1. Them Chargers ain't playing no games with Justin Herbert out there this year. No more overtime games and y'all barely win. This is going to be his year. So the point is, I just want somebody who stays right there in their grasp and talks about the next one up more so than all of them collectively.
I mean, look, I can't say that I'm an Ivy Leaguer, but I do know this. I know if you're in school 5 years, you're not a sophomore. He's been in the league for 5 years, so there's no sophomore slump that Patrick Mahomes is going to experience. And so maybe that's a Columbia thing, but I don't get that. And so when I think about Patrick Mahomes and I think about the guy's 38-8 in regular season since he's been in the league as a starting quarterback. He was 14-1 last year. He missed the 1 game. And look, we can say that this team is even better than the team that they had last year.
Oh, here we go.
Last year, he had to experience a global pandemic. They didn't have off-season work. They had, I don't know what kind of training camp or whatever you could call it. They had that. They basically throw the ball out in midfield, and they roll off 14, and then they only lose 1. I understand why Patrick Mahomes feels so